welcome to Hanging Out with Bob, podcast hosted by me, Bob Edholm. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. You know, since I started making these podcasts in September of 2024, I've learned that I really enjoy taking deep dives into various topics. Part of it is curiosity. Another part of it is the thrill of discovery, finding forgotten facts or little-known anecdotes. And yet another part of it is just the satisfaction I get from sharing with others the things that I find interesting or fascinating. And in this podcast episode, I've taken another deep dive to learn about a plane crash. Yes, a plane crash that happened in Northeast Minneapolis way back on May 30th, 1957, Memorial Day. Joining me to talk about that Memorial Day plane crash in 1957 is my brother, Dave Edholm. Dave, welcome back to Hanging Out with Bob.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
If you've listened to some of my previous podcast episodes, you've heard Dave and I, along with our brother Tom Edholm, talk about growing up in the 1960s and 70s in Columbia Heights, Minnesota, as well as episodes we've recorded about the Minnesota Gophers and Vikings football teams. But why a podcast about a plane crash? Well, because before Dave and I moved up to the Heights in the summer of 1962, we lived in that neighborhood in Northeast Minneapolis where the plane crash occurred. Yep, Dave and I were there when it happened. So again, Dave, thanks for joining me.
Yes.
A quick geography lesson, and maybe a quick history lesson too, about Northeast Minneapolis. A significant portion of Northeast Minneapolis streets that run north and south are named after U.S. presidents, starting with Washington Street, for example, and following in chronological order. Now, in the part of Northeast Minneapolis where Dave and I lived with our mom and dad in the late 1950s and early 1960s, the street names were, for example, Fillmore, followed by Pierce, followed by Buchanan, then Lincoln, then Johnson, and so on. And Dave, a quick round of questions for you. Can you give me the first names of those 5 U.S. presidents I just named? Let's start with Fillmore.
I think that was Millard.
Millard, yep.
Franklin Pierce.
Yep.
James Buchanan.
Yep. And Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln.
Yep. And Johnson.
Andrew Johnson.
Very good, very good. All right. Of course, Dave and I were just little kids on May 30th, 1957. I had just turned 4 years old the month before, in April, and Dave was 2.5 years old. We lived on Buchanan Street, just a block away from the site of the crash. And as I mentioned a moment ago, the both of us were there when the crash happened, playing outside in the backyard of our house. On the swing set, right, Dave?
Right.
Just a block away from the plane crash.
Well, Bob, it sounds like you've obviously spent a lot of time researching this topic, the Memorial Day plane crash in Northeast. Why don't you set the stage for what was going on that day? Again, this was Memorial Day, May 30th, 1957.
Yep. Like you said, Dave, it was Memorial Day, and it was a Thursday. See, before 1971, when the Memorial Day holiday was permanently changed to the last Monday of May, which then gave federal employees that nice 3-day weekend, Memorial Day had always been held on May 30th, regardless of the day of the week. And in 1957, as it is now, Memorial Day was a day to honor the fallen service members of the U.S. military. Many people would mark the day with special ceremonies like placing American flags or flowers or both on the graves of veterans at cemeteries. St. Clement, our parish then, had a daily mass that morning. Some people might attend a Memorial Day parade if there was one nearby. And Memorial Day also included things like cookouts or barbecues, picnics, and getting together with friends or family. And for some people, it was just a time to relax and enjoy the day off. For school-age kids, it meant no school that day, so they could play outside with their friends. And on that Memorial Day in 1957, at the Sunset Memorial Cemetery, which is just a couple miles straight east of the part of Northeast Minneapolis where Dave and I lived, there was a ceremony to be held during which 4 U.S. Navy fighter jets were to fly over the cemetery in an aerial salute to the war dead. Navy fighter jets had been conducting these Memorial Day flights over Twin Cities cemeteries for many years prior to May 30th, 1957, so it was a tradition.
So, Bob, what was it that happened on that particular aerial salute on May 30th, 1957? What made that Memorial Day celebration certainly unique from all the others before then?
Well, Dave, looking it up on the Star-Tribune Archive, which is an online historical storehouse of the Minnesota Star-Tribune newspaper and its predecessor papers, the Minneapolis Tribune and the Minneapolis Star, I found all kinds of information on that particular aerial salute. Like I said, 4 U.S. Navy fighter jets were to fly over Sunset Memorial Cemetery as part of a traditional Memorial Day ceremony. Typically, most of those Memorial Day ceremonies began in the late morning, between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Unfortunately, and tragically, on this Memorial Day, 2 of those 4 jet planes collided in midair over Northeast Minneapolis and crashed. One of the pilots was killed, and 9 civilians on the ground were injured. The pilot of the second plane was able to parachute to safety. And Dave, thousands of people actually witnessed that midair collision, including more than 1,000 who were at Sunset Memorial Cemetery for the ceremony, including then Minnesota Governor Orville Freeman and Captain Frank Gill, who was then station commander of the Naval Air Station based in Minneapolis. Can you imagine that, Dave? Imagine you're among the people attending that ceremony at the cemetery, looking up at a clear blue sky as the planes flew over, something the U.S. Navy had been doing for years, but then seeing 2 of those Navy fighter jets collide in midair. Terrifying, right?
Very terrifying. So you said you checked out the Minneapolis Tribune archives. What specific information did they give you about the 2 pilots who happened to collide midair?
Well, the Minneapolis Tribune and the Minneapolis Star, remember, there actually was a time when Minneapolis had 2 daily newspapers,
Yep.
the Tribune in the morning and the Star in the evening. Both did an excellent job of covering the crash. Lots of stories and photos over several pages of each of those newspapers. The pilot who was killed was Commander Newell Olson, with Newell spelled N-E-W-E-L-L, Newell Olson. He was born in Wilmer, Minnesota, but raised in St. Paul. The newspapers reported that Commander Olson was a tall man, about 6'4", hence his nickname was Big Olie. He was 38 years old, a veteran pilot, and he was also the liaison officer at that Naval Air Station located at the Minneapolis airport. And a quick aside, Dave, do you remember the name of our airport here before it was known as Minneapolis-St. Paul International?
I actually do. It was called Wold Chamberlain. Who Wold was and who Chamberlain were, I have no idea, but that's what it was called.
You're right. It was Wold Chamberlain Field. And they were actually named, it was actually named to honor 2 local World War I pilots, Ernest Wold and Cyrus Chamberlain. I mean, when I was little, I thought it was Wilt Chamberlain Field. But again, that's because we were little then. Right. And I bring it up because that's how the stories in newspapers then referred to the airport, Wilt Chamberlain. The pilot of the second plane that crashed was Lieutenant John Forsmark, who lived in South Minneapolis. He was 26 years old, and as I mentioned a moment ago, he parachuted to safety. By the way, the 2 other pilots in that 4-jet formation who were following the planes that collided in midair were, for the record, Lieutenant Milton Nordmeyer and Lieutenant Robert Bjorge, with Bjorge spelled B-J-O-R-G-E. Both men lived in Richfield. Fortunately for those 2 men, they were not involved in the midair collision. But because all 4 of the planes were moving so quickly, I imagine both of those pilots must have been just a little shaken afterward by what they had witnessed in midair, don't you think?
For sure.
Oh.
So, Bob, talk about the exact location where the two planes ended up actually crashing.
The Minneapolis Tribune reported that Commander Olson's plane crashed into a parked car in front of the house located at 1950 Pierce Street Northeast and set 4 houses on fire. As I mentioned earlier, 9 civilians, ranging in age from a toddler boy to 2 59-year-old men, were injured in the crash and taken to Minneapolis General Hospital. 5 of those injured persons suffered burns, and the other 4 persons were treated for such things as smoke inhalation, shrapnel injuries, and shock.
Where was Commander Olson's body found at the site of the crash?
That poor man. The Tribune reported that Commander Olson tried to eject safely, but his parachute snagged in a tree near the crash site, and his lifeless body was still hanging from the parachute. Can you imagine seeing that, Dave?
Wow.
And regarding Lieutenant Forsmark, the other pilot involved in the crash, his plane plummeted into an open field near the Aaron Carlson Company, a woodworking business near 15th and Central Avenues Northeast. The plane left a big hole in the ground, as you can imagine. 3 fires broke out on the roof of the Aaron Carlson building, but firemen extinguished them quickly. One employee at Aaron Carlson, according to the Tribune, narrowly missed getting struck by a part of the plane's landing gear. And a portion of the plane's tail section came to rest against the building itself.
Where exactly is the Aaron Carlson Company? What does it buy?
It was at 15th and Central Avenues, 1505 Central to be exact. You've driven past 15th and Central Avenues a million times, right?
Right.
When you're driving north on Central Avenue from, say, Broadway Avenue, as soon as you drive under the railroad overpass, you take a right turn. And the crash occurred in an open field behind the Aaron Carlson building. That business is no longer there at 15th and Central Avenues. In fact, the building itself was destroyed in a massive 4-alarm fire in September of 2025. But you can still see the large brick smokestack that says Aaron Carlson. Oh, and remember World Airflow? Mm-hmm. You worked there.
I worked
for
there
a while during your college years, right? Which before that was the Lumacraft building.
Oh,
that was at 1515 Central Avenue, so it was right by there.
Right there.
And while the second crash near 15th and Central Avenues happened in an open field, it wasn't all that far from a nearby playground where an estimated 150 to 200 children were playing. And the Northeast Athletic Field, including the baseball park at which you pitched over a half century ago, was also nearby.
Wow.
Fortunately for Lieutenant Forsmark, the pilot of that second plane, he was uninjured except for slight burns as he was ejected from his flaming aircraft.
Where did he land?
He parachuted to safety, thank goodness, but his chute had to be cut from the trees in which it was tangled to rescue him. He landed on his feet at the intersection of Johnson Street and 19th Avenue.
Wow.
11 blocks away from where his plane had crashed, but just 2 blocks east of where Commander Olson's plane had crashed. Now, Dave, you and I have driven up and down the intersection of Johnson Street and 19th Avenue at least several hundreds of times in our lives, right?
Right.
Now, today at each corner of that intersection, Johnson and 19th, there's a convenience store and a gas station at the southeast corner, a Domino's carry-out and delivery store, as well as a floral shop at the northeast corner, an organic mattress store at the northwest corner across the street from Domino's and the floral shop, and a 2-story upstairs-downstairs duplex residence at the southwest corner, across the street from the convenience store and gas station. And back then, way back then, I believe there were a couple of gas stations at the northeast and southeast corners of the intersection. I can remember Dad getting gas at the standard oil gas station.
Right.
The 2-story residence was already there. It's been there for decades at duplex. And what's now the organic mattress store might have been something like a corner mom and pop store, I guess. I don't remember exactly what it was then, but anyway, Dave, imagine if you lived near that intersection, Johnson and 19th, on that morning in 1957, and you saw a pilot parachute to that location.
Wow.
He landed on his feet, fortunately. He didn't smash into the side of a house or building or in what today is a very high traffic area, get hit by a car or truck in the street.
Or a bus.
Or a
Buses
bus.
used to run on Johnson.
Yep. And according to the Minneapolis Tribune, Lieutenant Forsmark, once he had landed safely, told the civilians who checked on him that he was okay, that he needed to get to a telephone. He said he wanted to call his wife to let her know he was okay.
Wow.
Then he reported to the Naval Air Station, and a civilian drove him to the airport. Hey,
Wow.
you need a ride? Yeah, okay.
Wow.
Where he underwent a quick physical examination and the first of what would be a long series of interviews with naval investigations officers.
Did any of your research in the Star Tribune actually explain what actually happened to cause that midair collision?
Well, according to reports in the Minneapolis Tribune, later that same day, Thursday, Lieutenant Forsmark stated at a news conference that he really didn't know how the crash happened. He said the left wing of his plane hit Commander Olson's plane, the fuselage, as the two jets began to execute this rolling maneuver. But they were going 330 miles per hour. And at the news conference, Lieutenant Forsmark said that when the left wing of his plane hit Commander Olson's fuselage, it happened in, quote, 1/50th of a second. In other words, just...
Wow.
And then both planes burst into flames. Forsmark said he pulled his ejection handles and shot up into the free air. He was fully conscious, but he began tumbling downward toward the onrushing ground. He pulled the ripcord on his parachute while upside down, and then saw this billowing cloth fill out above him. The parachute opened.
Wow.
And like I mentioned before, he was fortunate. He landed on his feet.
Wow.
The two other pilots in the jet formation, again, they were Lieutenants Milton Nordmeyer and Robert Bjorge, who joined Lieutenant Forsmark at that same news conference. I guess they were still in their air
Pilot
clothes.
gear?
Yeah, they didn't even change into street clothes.
Right.
They stated that Commander Olson had given an order to, quote, roll left as they completed their second flyover over the cemetery.
Okay.
Now, according to Captain Gill, again, he was the Naval Air Station commander. He estimated that the formation had passed the cemetery flying east to west at an altitude of about 1,500 feet and was beginning to gain more height as the planes prepared to leave for another ceremonial mission at Lake Calhoun in southwest Minneapolis. In other words, had nothing terrible happened as the four planes were leaving their aerial salute over the Sunset Memorial Cemetery, they would have done a similar salute over in southwest Minneapolis, which, traveling at 300 plus miles per hour, it would have been there in seconds, I would think.
Right.
Oh.
Wow. So back to the crash scene in Northeast Minneapolis, Bob, near 22nd and Pierce. How did the Minneapolis Tribune describe what happened when Commander Olson's plane crashed into the parked car on Pierce Street in the immediate aftermath?
Well, Dave, as I mentioned earlier, we lived in that neighborhood. We heard the sound of the plane as it plummeted to earth. We heard the crash and the explosion. And we saw the massive fireball as it rose above the rooftops and treetops, but we didn't see the crash itself. Oh, and I want to clarify something. When you get to the very end of the houses on the 1900 block of Pierce or Fillmore or Buchanan Streets, you're suddenly at 22nd Avenue, okay?
Yes.
There's no 20th or 21st Avenues there. Don't know why, but that's just how it is.
Well, and the blocks seem to be a lot shorter back then, too. I don't know. I've never measured how long they were, but I just remember the blocks being maybe a little shorter.
Because I remember when they first were saying, okay, 22nd and Pierce Street, and I go,
Right.
all of a sudden it's 1950 and then you're 2200.
Right.
But anyway, who the cartographers were, but that's how it's laid out. I also want to emphasize that the area near Pierce Street and 22nd Avenue was a densely populated, working-class type of neighborhood. And as the Minneapolis Tribune reported, as soon as Commander Olson's plane plummeted and crashed into the parked car on Pierce Street, the area turned into a scene of flaming jet fuel, burning houses, and screaming children who were nearby. Then came the noisy, siren-blasting emergency vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars. All available fire equipment was rushed to the scene of the crash, and fortunately, the fire station at 27th and Johnson Street was close by, so they got there right away. and the blaze was actually brought under control in a relatively short time. But it was still chaotic. The crashed plane had dug a hole in front of 1950 Pierce Street, shoving a parked car up against a house and then demolishing the car and damaging two other cars as it bounced to a halt. Police, fire, and newspaper switchboards were jammed with reports of airplane parts falling at various locations.
Wow. So I'm sure the newspapers, radio, TV stations, etc., interviewed lots of people in the neighborhood about the crash. What did some of those eyewitnesses have to say?
Oh, there were lots. I mean, there must have been 15 or 20 people that were quoted even in the newspapers. I'll give you a couple examples. One example: there was a man who lived upstairs in a 2-story duplex on Pierce Street. He told the Tribune that he had thought his garage would be a much safer place than the highways on the holiday. So he was polishing his car in the garage when suddenly he heard the sound of a roaring jet plane. He looked up and saw that it was like he's coming right at him. And he thought, oh, I didn't get hit. Well, anyway, when the jet smashed into the parked car in the street just a couple of houses away, he ran out front to see what was going on. So this man, who was polishing his car just moments before the crash, helped 2 other men carry Commander Olson's lifeless body out of the street away from the flames.
Wow.
Can you imagine, though? Another eyewitness. There was a woman who lived in the house just north of the house where the car parked in the street was hit by the plane. She was in the kitchen ironing. Her husband had left at 5 a.m. that morning for his milk delivery route with Cloverleaf Dairy. Remember Cloverleaf Dairy?
Yes.
And he was a milkman.
Milkman.
Tell people today, kids today, what milkmen were.
Right. There weren't any milk women.
No, it was just guys, And that's where he was that morning while she was ironing. Anyway, as that woman was ironing in her kitchen and heard the loud jet noise, she opened the door from her kitchen to the dining room and said there were flames shooting across the ceiling. She ran out back shouting, "Fire!" and hurried around the house and saw the pilot's parachute hanging in the tree in front of the neighbor's house. She said she thought it was an atomic bomb attack. Now remember, this was 1957.
Yes.
The Cold War with the Soviets was just starting to heat up. The woman then saw the neighbor lady who lived upstairs from them run down the stairs carrying her 2-month-old baby. The woman's husband, still wearing his pajamas, followed her and their baby down the stairs. Fortunately, they weren't injured. And another example. There was a man who lived on Fillmore Street, which is across the alley from Pierce Street. He said he was sleeping late that morning because of his midnight to 8 a.m. shift as a mechanic for Braniff Airways. His 2-year-old boy was playing in his stroller when the engine from the crashing jet plane struck in the yard not 15 feet away from the little boy.
Wow.
With that little boy was his 4-year-old sister, who was playing nearby. Both children were treated at General Hospital for shock and minor injuries. The man's wife, and the children's mother, was also treated at General Hospital for shock. But debris was scattered all about that area where the 2 children had been at play. The one home at 1950 Pierce Street was reportedly destroyed. The other 3 homes that took the brunt of the crash were also heavily damaged. And another important fact, Dave, the Tribune reported that throughout the day, literally thousands of spectators watched debris being hauled away from that area and were asking a million questions about what happened as they stared at the blackened homes. Again, we were really little kids, so I don't remember if, maybe Dad walked up to the scene of that plane crash. Do you remember him ever talking about that to us as we got older?
I don't. The only thing that I remember, and we had discussed this the other day, is the fact that there were, it seemed, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people that were walking on the sidewalk to see the crash site.
Yep.
For some reason, I don't know if Pierce was blocked off but they were walking actually down Buchanan. Mm-hmm. And I remember just seeing crowds, and not crowds of people walking across your yard, but just everybody was on the sidewalk. But the sidewalk was packed with people.
Yep. I should note, as Dave is telling this, he was 2.5 years old at the time, and he remembers that, which is pretty amazing.
First memory.
Yep.
As tragic and traumatic as that plane crash was in 1957, were there other air disasters in Minneapolis before then?
Yep, unfortunately there were, Dave. In my research, I found that in the years 1950 through 1956, several planes had crashed in Minneapolis. For example, on March 7, 1950, there was a powerful snowstorm in the Twin Cities. A Northwest Orient Airlines passenger plane collided with a flagpole at Fort Snelling while it was trying to land. With the left wing damaged, the plane circled back around to try another attempt at landing, but it smashed into a home off Minnehaha Parkway in South Minneapolis. All 10 passengers and 3 crew members were killed, as were 2 children on the ground who were crushed to death in their sleep by the falling airplane. And in 1956, a pair of military aircraft disasters, only days apart, crashed in Minneapolis. On June 5, 1956, a Navy fighter jet went down, crashing into a car on the highway near the airport and killing a mother and child bound for what was then the new Metropolitan Stadium.
Wow.
The pilots were able to eject safely. Then, just 4 days later, on June 9, 1956, another Navy jet fighter plane, fully loaded with ordnance, missiles, rockets, whatever, fell out of formation and crash-landed across 3 houses on 46th Avenue in South Minneapolis. This caused an enormous explosion and killed the pilot and 6 people on the ground. Imagine most of them were kids, too. So yeah, it was bad in the 1950s in Minneapolis as far as air disasters go.
So back to the 1957 Memorial Day crash. Was there any kind of a government or congressional investigation into the plane crash? There must have been some kind of official inquiry.
Right. There was no official congressional investigation into the crash, but the Navy did investigate. It was called the Navy Board of Inquiry. It didn't publicly assign blame to any single individual, but they officially classified the midair collision as, quote, a tragic accident, unquote. The investigation board concluded that the collision was a midair maneuvering error caused by conditions of the flight path. The other conclusions drawn from the investigation by the Navy Board of Inquiry included, 1, that Commander Newell Olson, whose jet crashed into a parked car near the corner of 22nd Avenue and Pierce Street, was killed when his parachute failed to deploy after he was forced to eject at a critically low altitude. 2, that the pilot of the second disabled jet, Lieutenant John Forsmark, managed to bail out safely with his aircraft plunging into a vacant lot 5 blocks away from the site at 22nd Avenue and Pierce Street. 3, that the disaster left several residents injured, including 6 people on the ground who were injured by flying debris and burns. And 4, that Commander Olson's falling jet demolished a parked car and set 4 houses on fire. Fortunately, no civilians were killed in the incident.
Although you took the deep dive into this plane crash in 1957, were there things about the incident that you were not able to find that still remain questions for you?
Yep, there were. For example, I haven't been able to find out what became of the pilot who survived the plane crash, Lieutenant John Forsmark. We knew a family named Forsmark in Columbia Heights. I wonder if there's any relation. I don't know. Anyway, Lieutenant Forsmark was 26 at the time of the crash. And even though he was 12 years younger than Commander Olson, he was no rookie pilot. Lieutenant Forsmark had 4 years in active service and 2 more in the reserve at the time of that crash. The Tribune reported that he had flown 775 hours in jet planes, the equivalent of more than 200 separate flights. But what I wanted to find out was what happened to him after that collision. Was he assigned to a different naval air station after what happened in Minneapolis? Did he stay in Minneapolis after he retired? Anyway, Lieutenant Forsmark would be 95 or so if he's still alive. I also haven't been able to find out what happened to the other 2 pilots who were part of that 4-jet group that did the flyover. They were Lieutenants Milton Nordmeyer and Robert Bjorge. After the collision, did either of them experience survivor's guilt? Why them and not us? And again, those 2 pilots would also be in their 90s at least if they're still alive. And I'm also a little surprised that I couldn't find in the Star Tribune archive any kind of follow-up stories to the 1957 Memorial Day crash. I thought I would see something commemorating, say, the 1-year anniversary of the crash, or 5-year anniversary, or 10-year anniversary, but I didn't find it. Maybe it's because there was only one death, the pilot, Commander Olson. No civilians were killed, fortunately. And I also wonder if this incident, this air disaster, is or was ever taught to students in the Minneapolis schools, particularly around Memorial Day each year. Now, you were a teacher, Dave. Had you been a teacher in Minneapolis, do you think you might have talked about that incident to your students? Because you were there. You were literally in the neighborhood.
For sure.
When the crash happened. Maybe not talk about it to second grade kids, but especially middle schoolers or high school.
I think I actually did share that with some students.
Oh, okay.
That when I taught 4th and 5th.
And you taught in the Nokohennepin district for 42 years,
yep.
right? So,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But you did tell them about that. Okay, yeah.
One thing that I'd be curious to find out, I don't know how you would ever do it, but because you and I witnessed a plane crash at such young ages, I was 2.5, you were 4?
Yeah.
And you talked about these kids that actually had the debris from the plane like 15 feet from them. We were probably 100 yards away.
Right.
It still was very traumatic.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine what they must have.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if they're still around. It'd be interesting to find out if they have any memories of it, where they lived. Did they graduate from Edison High School?
If I can ever find some people that were there, and if they're still around, I'd love to talk to them someday. I think that would be fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to do a follow-up. So.
Besides the newspaper articles you've cited, what were you able to read online, and where else were you able to find any information about this plane crash?
Well, the majority of my information did come from Star Tribune archives. But in MinnPost, have you ever heard of MinnPost?
Yes.
MinnPost?
Yes.
Yeah. MinnPost is an independent, nonprofit online news organization based in Minneapolis. I found an excellent article from August 2016 written by Andy Sturdivant and entitled Remembering the Twin Cities 4 Aviation Disasters in the 1950s, which included the crash in Northeast Minneapolis. And I also found helpful information from a book entitled Roots and Ties, a Scrapbook of Northeast Memories by Jenny Zach Keeley. Her book came out in 2003. I've checked it out from the Columbia Heights Public Library, and it includes a chapter on the 1957 Memorial plane crash. I'm holding up the book and showing it to Dave as we speak. I think Mom and Dad had a copy of this book, didn't they?
Yes.
Do we still have that, or is that?
We do.
Oh,
We
you
do.
do? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. But that was helpful that she referenced that plane crash.
Yeah.
And I think she included a photo that was probably from the Minneapolis Tribune in her
Right.
book. So, but those 3 sources, the Star Tribune archive, the MinnPost article, and the book about Northeast Minneapolis by Jenny Zach Keeley were really helpful.
Do you have any idea why or what some of the reasons are why there isn't more information available on that plane crash?
The one in 57?
In 57,
Yeah.
the Memorial Day crash.
Well, I can think of maybe a few reasons why this might be so. One, that 1957 Memorial Day crash was kind of overshadowed by the 1956 disasters. Remember, that's where they had 2 of them 4 days apart.
Right.
And they happened in South Minneapolis. And those incidents resulted in heavy civilian casualties, unlike the one in Northeast. And so that might explain why it generated more coverage. Mm-hmm. 2, just the fact that there were fewer civilian casualties in the Northeast Minneapolis air disaster. Although Commander Olson was killed when his plane crashed, no civilians on the ground were killed. The lack of mass civilian casualties likely resulted in less long-term media coverage. In fact, there was a headline in the Minneapolis Star on May 30th, the afternoon of that crash, with a big headline that said, "Miracle on Pierce Street," because only one person was killed. I mean, considering the debris and the homes and that stuff,
Right.
you'd think there could have been,
Numerous
dozens or
deaths.
more. So,
Yes.
And 3, there was political fallout over these flyovers, these aerial salutes. As it turned out, the Northeast crash caused immediate political friction rather than long-term historical storytelling. For example, then Minnesota Senator Hubert H. Humphrey took to the U.S. Senate floor the day after the 1957 crash and heavily criticized the military for running, quote, hazardous low-altitude flyovers over heavy populated areas. And also, In 1957, there were no social media or instant nonstop news outlets like there are now. Can you imagine if smartphones had been available then? Because there were literally thousands of people who were at the crash site. There was a picture in the Minneapolis Star that showed the crowd on Pierce Street. They just completely filled the street. It looked like Times Square on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And what if they'd all had phones? I mean, it would have been,
There'd be 100,000 photos.
Oh, yeah. So.
What were some of the long-term effects of that plane crash, if any?
I didn't mention this earlier, but according to the Minneapolis Tribune, after the midair collision and crash that occurred on Memorial Day, Captain Gill, again, he was the Naval Air Station commander who was at the cemetery and saw those planes collide midair. He immediately issued an order banning further ceremonial flights by officers under his command. And the long-term effects? Well, there have been no more aerial flyover salutes held on Memorial Day since that tragic day in 1957. In fact, that collision, combined with the deadly jet crashes in Minneapolis just a year before, led to a massive public outcry. And as a result, officials banned low-level, high-risk military demonstrations over the Twin Cities metro area. Today, in fact, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, and the military branches now enforce strict altitude restrictions over populated areas. And the Air Force permanently ended hazardous low-altitude buzzing or stunt flyovers in the Twin Cities as a result of those deadly crashes in the 1950s.
I find it ironic, though, because there's military flyovers constantly for sporting events today. I'm sure, like you said, there's the altitude restrictions. You think about the paratroopers that come in and land on like the 50-yard line. When's somebody going to crash into the second deck?
That still makes me nervous when that stuff happens, because I do think of stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah. But you're right. That's a good point. They've outlawed or banned, Memorial Day stuff, flowers. But for sporting events, you still see that.
Oh yes.
So
constantly.
there's always a little bit of risk in that. So
right. Let's go back for a second to the pilot who ended up dying that day, Commander Newell Olson. How did the Star Tribune cover his funeral?
A good-sized photo in the Minneapolis Tribune showed an honor guard firing a last salute over the grave of Commander Olson on Saturday, June 1st, 1957, just 2 days after the event, as he was buried in Fort Snelling National Cemetery. The photo caption stated that a funeral mass was held for Commander Olson at St. Kevin's Catholic Church. Some 450 people, both military and civilian, attended. Interestingly, Dave, Commander Olson had converted to the Catholic faith just a month before that plane crash.
Wow.
The caption also mentioned that Commander Olson was survived by his wife, her name is Joan, and their 3 children. The Olson son, Roger, had died a year before in infancy. In fact, Commander Olson was buried in Fort Snelling beside the grave of his infant son, Roger.
Wow.
And I do want to mention that at Sunset Memorial Cemetery, again, that's the cemetery just 2 miles east of the crash site at 22nd Avenue and Pierce Street Northeast, there's what they call a Tower of Memories that includes a dedicated plaque commemorating Commander Olson. I'd like to see that sometime, now that I've read it. Oh, and just one more thing I wanted to share from my research regarding Commander Olson, Big Ole. The Tribune reported that he flew on that Memorial Day because he didn't want to have to ask any of his men to work on Memorial Day. It was part of his job as liaison officer to procure services for groups who wanted flyovers on patriotic holidays. And on that Memorial Day in 1957, he basically elected himself. He'd been at the Naval Air Station hangar since early that morning anyway, after attending the 6 a.m. Mass held at St. Kevin's, same church where, just 2 days later, a funeral mass for him would be held.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yes. From the information you've presented, it sounds like the 50s were not the safest time for air travel in Minneapolis. It's got to be a lot safer today in the skies over Minneapolis, St. Paul than it was in the 50s. Do you have any statistics?
Yes, definitely. It's estimated that Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport alone handles an average of 1,000 to 1,200 total flights, arrivals and departures on any given day. Some days it's a lot more, sure. Air travel, though, through the first quarter of the 21st century is safer than ever. And it's a testament to the aviation industry that in the past 6 decades, accidents like the 1957 Memorial Day midair collision in Northeast Minneapolis have been largely unheard of, in the Twin Cities specifically, and in the United States generally. Although any one airplane crash is one too many, right?
Yes. I also remember, I think it was the late 50s or early 60s. It didn't happen in Minneapolis, but it happened for a group of men that were playing basketball in Minneapolis. The Lakers had a very close call. I think that they had to set a plane down in a cornfield or something.
Yeah, I think it was like in Iowa or someplace.
Somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah.
And no question about it. Air travel back then was much riskier, I think.
Yep. People today who live near the airport might get annoyed at times with the seemingly never-ending loud sound of planes arriving and departing. But I imagine people living near the airport back in 1956 or 1957 might have felt even a small, lingering sense of dread, maybe. Every time you hear the plane, it's like, are they going to land safely or are they going to crash across the street? It's
kind of like all the people in Shea Stadium or LaGuardia, like they fly like right. Seems like they're flying from center field over second base to home plate. But you get used to it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, even Met Stadium could be noisy because that was by the airport, wasn't it? Yeah. So.
Yep.
And for me personally, Dave, for several weeks after that Memorial Day plane crash in our neighborhood, remember I was 4 years old, every time I even heard a jet plane flying overhead, I'd run into the house crying, frightened, because I thought it was going to crash, because it had that same sound, so just wild.
For some reason, I don't remember ever being frightened of planes after that, other than the fact that I was very frightened during the crash itself.
Yeah.
And I was told, that our dad had to literally pry my hands off the glider on the swing set. I remember it still is a vivid memory, seeing the fireball in the sky, the noise.
Yeah.
We were probably about a football field's length away from the crash.
Well, it was a 1900 block. We were at 1906 Buchanan, and this was like 1950 Pierce. So
1950 Pierce. So we were very close.
Very close.
Yeah, and I do remember too vividly that the sky was a bright blue. It wasn't like it wasn't
not a
like
cloud in the sky.
Yeah, not a cloud in the sky. That it was just a really nice morning. Until that occurred.
Yep.
What were your reasons, Bob, for making a podcast episode about this plane crash in Northeast Minneapolis?
Well, basically, there were 2 reasons. First reason, I wanted to learn more about the crash. Yeah, we were there when it happened, just a block away from the house where we lived. We heard the plane crash. We heard the explosion. We saw the fireball in the sky. We heard the sirens. But in 1957, we were just little boys. It would be another year before I even started kindergarten, and 2 years before you started school. It would be another 5.5 years before Brother Tom was even born. Our mom and dad were only in their 20s at the time. And anyone who was our folks' age and lived in Northeast Minneapolis at that time and are still alive, well, they're well into their 90s now. I wish Mom and Dad were still around so I could have asked them about the memories of the plane crash.
Too.
And that's why I'm grateful for sources like the Star Tribune Archive, the MinPost article about the aviation disasters in the 50s, the book about Northeast Minneapolis by Jenny Zach Keeley that includes that section about the crash, and even some comments I read on a Facebook page for Northeast Minneapolis. People that were sharing their memories. That brought back a lot for me, too. And thanks to those sources, I did learn a lot more about the crash. And the second reason I wanted to make this podcast, well, because that Memorial Day plane crash happened almost 70 years ago, I wanted to share what I learned with others. And by others, that can include people who were little kids like you and me, Dave, at the time of that crash, who maybe even lived in Northeast Minneapolis. Some of them may have been our classmates at Whitney School.
Yeah.
But they might not remember many of the details because I didn't know many of the details until I started researching it. Or people who are transplants to the Twin Cities, including many who live in Northeast Minneapolis now. They've moved here from different parts of the state, different parts of the country, even different parts of the world for that matter. Many of them likely have never heard about the plane crash. Or the Gen Xers, the Millennials, and the Gen Zs. They certainly weren't around in 1957, unless maybe their parents or grandparents have told them about the Memorial Day plane crash 70 years ago. They probably wouldn't know about that crash either. And the final group is anyone of any age who lives anywhere who would be interested to learn about two jet fighter planes colliding and crashing, one in a densely populated neighborhood and the other in a vacant lot, but still close to a park packed with kids playing on a Memorial Day holiday. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast episode, Dave. I wanted to learn more about the crash for myself, and then I wanted to share what I had learned with others. Okay, Dave, since you are my guest and I am your host, I'm going to let you have the last word. Thanks for being here, by the way, and thanks for your questions. Now, based on what you remember from or what you've heard about that plane crash nearly 70 years ago, as well as some of the things we've shared today, what will be your biggest takeaways from all of this?
Well, a lot of, believe it or not, there's still a lot of questions, you did a really good job of a deep dive, but it would be very interesting to know the story of the pilots a little bit more. If you think about 1957, World War II had ended 12 years earlier. The Korean War had entered, 6 or 7 years earlier. Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to know if some of these guys ever were pilots on missions during those wars, or if they served during World War II. Just out of natural curiosity, it would be interesting to find out if Olson, the pilot that died, what happened to his family after that. That would be interesting, but really, really fun to actually learn about this stuff, and fun to kind of revisit just Northeast Minneapolis back then. As I said, I do remember, the crowds of people that were walking on the sidewalks. Another thing that I found interesting is that everybody stayed on the sidewalk. I remember I was just a little kid, but I think Mom and Dad even commented that the people were on the sidewalk. You didn't walk across people's lawns. We had very kind of small front yards, but I just remember everybody was on that sidewalk. People weren't in the street; they were on the sidewalk. It was packed. It was but it was a really good place to grow up back then. We've talked a little bit about driving past the old neighborhood, and it's always fun to revisit that. The other thing you had mentioned about Johnson Street, and just how times were so different. The bus line ran on Johnson Street. Yep. And I can recall when you were, I think, a third grader and I was a second grader, our grandpa putting us on a bus to actually go to downtown Minneapolis. I don't know if it cost a nickel or a dime, but how often would you put a 7 and a 9-year-old on a bus in Minneapolis now? I don't know, maybe people do it all the time. I don't know, but it seems it was just a totally different time.
It was. Yeah, good point. My apartment here in Columbia Heights is only about 2.5 miles or so to the sites where those two planes crashed in Northeast Minneapolis. You and I should take a drive down there soon, just to see the houses on Pierce Street and Fillmore Street, even Buchanan Street, where we lived, and then see the site of the other plane crash near the Northeast Athletic Field, even the intersection of 19th and Johnson, where Lieutenant Forsmark parachuted to safety. A lot of history there and a lot of memories there.
Yes. Good ones for the most part.
Anyway, I'm glad you joined me for this podcast episode, Dave.
Well, thanks again for having me.
And again, to our listeners, thanks for hanging out with me, Bob Edholm, and my brother, Dave Edholm. We hope you join us for the next episode of Hanging Out with Bob, wherever you listen to your podcast. Until then, bye.